There's never been a more important time to get a second passport and citizenship than right now. Having more than one passport is increasingly becoming a way to protect your wealth and to preserve your overall freedom. And it's something I talk about quite a bit on this channel. But over the last few weeks and months, we've already seen some massive changes in various Citizenship by Investment programs, or CBI programs, around the world. And so in today's video, it's going to be a bit of a quick one, but I'm going to cover some of the major changes we've seen recently, even within the last few days, about some of these CBI programs, why it matters, how it relates to you, and what actions you can take to stay ahead of the curve. Again, it's a bit of a quicker and different video than normal, but I wanted to update you guys as quickly as possible, so let's get to it. And so really within the last few months, and especially within the last couple of weeks even, we've seen some worrying changes with some of the CBI programs around the world. And so first up, and perhaps most concerning, there have just been some outright bans that I'm going to cover really quickly. For example, in April of this year, we saw Malta banning its Citizenship by Investment program known as the Golden Passport. And this came following a ruling by the European Court of Justice that deemed the program illegal, stating that it amounted to selling citizenship and undermined the principles of EU law. Now, this is also coming shortly after Spain has also effectively banned its Citizenship by Investment program. So we have two countries in Europe already just completely banning these programs. Right off of the bat, this is pretty concerning, especially because of the precedent it sets with the European Court of Justice stepping in and saying that programs like Malta's passport program are effectively illegal. Now, these are outright bans. However, there's also been some really recent developments regarding potential travel bans on visa-free travel from certain CBI countries or programs. For example, within the last few days, the US has actually confirmed that it is considering placing a travel ban on visa-free travel from certain Caribbean countries. Specifically, this ban would target Antigua, Dominica, St. Kitts, and St. Lucia, which are all countries with popular CBI programs where you can essentially make a donation and get a second passport. Now, you might be wondering why this potential ban on visa-free travel from these countries would be taking effect, but really it is being done, according to the US, in the name of national security. A State Department spokesperson confirmed that the visa adjudication process has got to ensure that US-bound foreign travelers do not pose a threat for the national security and public safety of the United States. And so essentially in the name of safety, the US is saying, hey, we want to put in some new guidelines and benchmarks that these CBI programs have to meet. Otherwise, we're going to be putting a temporary or potentially permanent ban on visa-free travel from these countries. The European Union is also going down a very similar path. And by fall of 2025, there could be a temporary ban on visa-free access from these CBI countries. Now, the EU has already done this in the Schengen region for areas like Vanuatu. It had concerns with how that CBI program was being run and which applicants were getting accepted and then going to Europe in the Schengen region. So again, they're not scared of necessarily banning certain regions and CBI programs from visa-free travel. And now it's looking like the Caribbean might also be in the crosshairs for the EU as well as the United States. Now, these bans aren't completely official yet, and we're really going to see over the next 60 to 90 days and couple of months how all of this plays out. But the growing trend is certainly that countries are becoming more wary of CBI programs and really don't want people with these passports freely traveling to their countries. And this brings me to my next point, another development we've seen recently, which is just countries placing tougher restrictions in general on kind of getting citizenship or getting a second passport there. Now, this one we've seen a bit more of over time. For example, back in 2023, Portugal removed real estate as an option in its Golden Visa program. So again, it is still one of the best programs in Europe, and I'll be covering it at the end of this video, but we have seen some changes in it over time. But now we're seeing some more recent changes, specifically with countries tightening restrictions as it relates to citizenship by descent, or basically getting your passport and citizenship because members of your family come from that country. For example, earlier this year, Italy actually tightened its restrictions on this citizenship by descent by quite a bit. So previously, essentially anyone who had an Italian ancestor and who could prove that was kind of eligible to go through this citizenship by descent program. With the new laws that have passed, you now have to have either a parent or grandparent who has their Italian citizenship, and you basically have to prove your ties to Italy. And again, it's a lot tougher to actually go through the process. Romania is another example, and I'm actually in the process of getting my Romanian citizenship right now because both of my parents are from Romania. However, the new law that's passing is going to add some language requirements. I don't know yet if this is going to impact me because my application is pretty much at the end stages, so I'm hoping not. But again, future applicants will have to be proficient in Romanian. And finally, the other trend I want to mention really quickly is that we are also seeing increases in prices over time for a lot of these CBI programs. St. Kitts is a perfect example. It used to cost around $150,000 just a few years ago, but that price is now, again, closer to $250,000 just a few years later. Additionally, as some countries remove real estate as an option in their CBI program, it almost inherently makes it a bit more expensive because now you're essentially looking at either a donation or perhaps investing in some kind of fund you maybe don't want your money in. So again, we are seeing increases in prices, more restrictions, more difficulties, especially in recent months. And so all of this is to say, guys, that the clock is really ticking when it comes to these CBI programs and how easy it is going to be to get a second passport, to get your residency, to get citizenship through some of these different routes. I don't think this trend is likely to stop anytime soon either, which is why I want to kind of wrap up this video with some options that are left, what I'm going to be doing, and what you could consider as well. And so first up, just not to be all doom and gloom, there are still some excellent programs out there that you can consider that either get you residency or citizenship, or get you residency and then a path to citizenship. Portugal's Golden Visa program still remains one of the most compelling, popular programs in Europe, and that hasn't actually changed. And in fact, it might even be getting a little bit better. And so this visa program offers you residency in exchange for investment of about 500,000 euro. It had a massive number of applicants approved last year. Again, it is one of the most popular programs in Europe. And according to recent reports, the government is actually considering making some adjustments to add even more tax incentives and reasons for people to apply for this visa. According to a report I saw from Forbes, the idea is to enable the new Portuguese residents to benefit from a 20% flat tax on local income and a 10-year exemption on most foreign income. And again, this is already a super popular program, especially as countries like Spain have dropped their program. And so again, it could be a route to essentially buy your way into obtaining residency in Europe and eventually citizenship in Portugal. Another option I would consider you guys to look into would be the Citizenship by Descent programs as well. Like I just mentioned, we're seeing countries tightening restrictions and changing things. And this is the kind of process that can normally take 1 to 2 years or even longer to go through. So my advice would be to start the application process now if it's something you qualify for a certain country. Again, a lot of these programs require getting your birth certificate, getting different legal forms, a lot of back and forth communication between embassies. So it can take some time, which is why I recommend starting now, because you really don't know how the requirements are going to change in the future. And finally, my last tip would be to just start getting some cards up your sleeve, again, expecting that the world is going to become a little bit more complicated and some of these programs might change significantly. My number one tip here is to build some kind of business. I cover this all the time on my main channel, Tom Blake Finance, where I talk about making money online and online businesses, but really a business is an amazing vehicle for a lot of people to move somewhere else where they feel they're treated better. For example, as a Canadian who is very unhappy with the economic conditions in this country currently, I am exploring the possibility of moving my business to the United States because I think I will ultimately make more money and pay way less in taxes. And I don't think the benefits you get in Canada for the taxes you pay are worth it whatsoever. I know a lot of people who do this, they build a business and then they move it somewhere, and it is essentially a path to securing a better quality of life. This ties into the other idea of just learning more skills, learning new languages, learning something that would basically help you move somewhere, immigrate somewhere, and be a more valuable person in the eyes of that country. Now, again, I know this is a bit of a different video than normal, but we've seen some really crazy changes within the last few weeks and months. So I just wanted to kind of summarize a lot of them very quickly, outline how I'm thinking about them and what I might be planning, and then give you guys a few ideas as well. It really does seem like the world is changing. The trend is going in a direction that makes a lot of this a bit more difficult. So I think it's more important than ever to take action and do some research. If you're in the process of getting your citizenship or passport somewhere else, I'd love if you could let me know in the comments as well what your experience is like, what you're thinking about, what are you worried about, and what you're doing in light of all these changes. But yeah, that really does it for this one. I'll have a different video coming out shortly as well, covering some more ideas to help you preserve your global freedom. Again, I want to cover budget travel, I want to cover retirement and visas and everything like that. And I also want to cover these topics because it really does impact our ability to be global citizens and to travel freely and live where we want to live. Hopefully you found this video helpful. You can drop a like or a comment if you did find it helpful. And guys, thank you so much for watching and for all of the support. It really does mean a lot. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Is that 15?